As 2025 begins to unfold, our favorite video game companies are all giving their fan bases a glimpse of what is coming up both this year and beyond. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony have all put forward some exciting news, whether in the form of a long-awaited teaser for the new Switch console or showcases packed with release dates, new game reveals, and deep dives into the story and the gameplay of upcoming titles. Hi everyone, welcome to another video of Life About Games. As usual, my name is Alex, and before we dive into all of these exciting updates, I just wanted to remind you that if you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, to please hit the like and subscribe buttons below, as they really help this channel grow and keep me motivated to bring you more videos in the future. And now that we have that covered, let's get on with today's show. We start off with the Nintendo Switch 2. We all knew that this announcement was coming, and it was just a matter of time before we learned more about this new console. Surprisingly or not, it looks very similar to the Switch 1, playing to the strengths of its predecessor, but with slightly bigger dimensions. For its new hybrid handheld, Nintendo decided to go with a dark gray color, adding a few discrete brushes of the famous red and blue on the controllers and sides of the screen, most likely to appeal to the same generation that grew up with the Switch 1, but is now a bit more of age. Speaking of controllers, these have also increased in size, introducing a new connecting mechanism. Instead of sliding the controllers to attach them back to the console, everything is now magnetic, with the addition of a connection point for increased stability. The controllers also seem to have a mysterious new function that many claim to be some sort of a mouse. Whether this is true and how it could be used for that purpose without a keyboard to go with it, we have yet to see. In terms of additions, there is a new button below the home button, as well as a small lens that is potentially a laser sensor, although no further details were shared in terms of what is their function and purpose. There will be two standardized USB-C ports available instead of one, to allow for better connectivity and support for accessories and peripherals. The dock and controller also make their return, with minimal to no changes at all. Throughout the teaser, we got to see images of what seems to be a new Mario Kart game. At first, I was under the impression that Nintendo was showcasing Mario 8. But if you look closer, you can spot a few differences, including character redesigns, and the fact that there are now 24 racers in the starting line instead of 12, which is likely to bring more chaos and fun to the races, possibly with a bigger emphasis on online. The other major announcement is that the console will offer backwards compatibility, giving players the ability to play most Switch 1 games, both digital and physical, with a few exceptions, most likely tied to games with peripherals like Ring Fit Adventure. While this is all we know about the console for now, Nintendo has announced a new Direct, which will go live on April 2nd. Next off, we have Xbox's Developers Direct. Microsoft presented us with a deep dive on 4 upcoming games, and I must confess I quite enjoyed the format and thought it was a pretty solid showcase overall. It would be great if Sony and Nintendo followed a similar approach, and published a few of these videos over the year, focusing on 3 or 4 titles, and featuring the studios and the people that are hard at work in the background to bring these games to life. The Direct started off with Ninja Gaiden 4, and it looks pretty interesting and stylish, as you would expect from a Team Ninja and Platinum Games collaboration. I haven't played any of the previous Ninja Gaiden games, so it definitely caught my eye because of its gore and Devil May Cry type of gameplay. During this presentation, we got a nice bonus with the shadow drop of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, a remaster that blends aspects of the original game with Sigma 2. Visually, it looks stunning, although general feedback is that it's not the definitive edition that the developers were hoping it would be. South of Midnight is also looking pretty great. I quite like the visual style that the team chose for this game, as well as its mystical folkloric theme, which gives the game depth and a distinct personality. The combat, although it looks like something we've seen before, looks fun too. Claire Obscure's presentation looked stunning as well, and the more and more I see of the game, the more I wish to get my hands on it. From the amazing visuals, a deep turn-based combat system that promises tons of customization, and a story premise that seems to be right up my alley, I am already sold on this game and will not be looking to see any more of it before it's released on April 24th. Finally, id Software gave us a juicy preview of Doom: The Dark Ages, the new installment in one of the oldest gaming franchises, and a prequel to the much acclaimed Doom 2016. Personally, I think the game looks insane, and it seems the team really is pulling out all of the stops to make this a very special and unique experience. The new close combat mechanics and the introduction of weapons, such as the shield saw, look really cool and powerful, and the monster design, inspired by earlier takes of the series, combined with the hellish, techno-medieval settings, really give this game a lot of personality. I'm looking forward to giving this a try when the game comes out on May 15th. Finally, we have PlayStation's State of Play. A lot of speculation was put around what this showcase would be about. To me, personally, it ended up being a lukewarm but solid presentation, with a few game reveals, but mostly release dates for the games that we can expect to put our hands on later this year. I don't think Sony could have done it any differently, as they really needed to get players excited for what is coming up soon. But maybe they could have tried to compact these date announcements a bit more into some sort of extended trailer, to be able to cover more game reveals and give people more to talk about. Still, it was, as I mentioned, a well-rounded presentation that definitely had a little something for everyone. In terms of release dates, we now know that Midnight Walk is coming out on May 8th, Metal Gear Solid Delta on May 28th, Lost Soulicide on May 30th, and then Hell Is Us on September 4th and Borderlands 4 on September 23rd. In terms of game announcements and updates, there were a few that got me interested. Starting with Shinobi Art of Vengeance. The iconic 2D action platformer is planned to make a return by the hands of the team behind Streets of Rage 4 and publisher Sega. What was shown of the game looks absolutely beautiful, with a very unique hand-drawn art, stylish combat, and precise platforming that kind of reminds me of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. As you know, I quite enjoyed Prince of Persia's gameplay, which combined with the nostalgia surrounding Sega's famous ninja character is everything they need to get me sold on the idea. Shinobi: The Art of Vengeance is scheduled to release on August 28th. Next off, we have Darwin's Paradox, another platformer which surprisingly is coming from Konami and promises to mix action, stealth, and puzzle-solving elements. In this game, you play as an octopus that has been captured and taken to an industrial complex. Your goal? To use your special abilities to escape and return to the ocean. While the premise seems simple, Konami has hinted in their website that the game will uncover a conspiracy, which seems to suggest a deeper story behind it. Only time will tell. The animation also looks great, almost as if it was taken straight out of a DreamWorks animated movie. The game is slated to release sometime later this year. Lies of P Overture is a DLC to the acclaimed Souls-like, Pinocchio-inspired action RPG. I must confess I didn't play the original, but this DLC is looking incredibly pretty and stylish, with some interesting bosses and cool new mechanics. The game is a prequel to the main storyline, where the character travels back to the city of Croft, days before the Puppet Frenzy massacre, after encountering a strange artifact. Through it, you will be able to explore the past, uncover secrets, and the events that led up to the main game. The game is set to come out in summer 2025. Next up, we have Mind's Eye. Perhaps one of the most interesting reveals of the show, Mind's Eye is a story-driven, action-adventure thriller set in the fictional desert city of Red Rock. The game takes on a third-person perspective, and from what was shown, it looks like a very cinematic and action-packed video game, reminding me a bit of GTA in its driving sequences, and Uncharted in terms of combat. From what we saw, the game looks promising, and we won't have to wait too long before it releases in summer 2025. Looking now into 2026, we got to see new gameplay for Onimusha Way of the Sword, a reboot of the classic video game series. Capcom continues to be on a roll in terms of reviving its well-beloved IPs, and with the latest resurgence in the hack-and-slash genre, this is the perfect time to revisit this series. Aside from great visuals, Onimusha is aiming to bring back the mechanics and atmosphere that made this game so unique. The story of Way of the Sword takes place in Kyoto, Japan, during the early Edo period, and introduces a new protagonist, Miyamoto Musashi, a samurai capable of slaying demons called Genma, thanks to the Oni Gauntlet, a mystical artifact present in all of the previous entries of the series. From the little gameplay that we were shown, the game is looking very interesting, with players now being able to use items scattered through the environment to protect themselves from attacks or impair enemies. More to come in the upcoming months for sure. Moving on to other games, we also got the announcement for Saros, a new IP from PlayStation Studio Housemarque, which is technically a spiritual successor to Returnal, and marks the 30th anniversary of the studio. Looking to build on top of a lot of the ideas that were introduced by Returnal, Saros takes place on a sci-fi post-apocalyptic world, with a bit of Dune vibes, and you play as a solitary enforcer who is in search of something still to be disclosed. A key gameplay distinction between Saros and Returnal is permanent resources and progression, meaning that when you die, you will be able to upgrade your loadout, whether that's weapons or suit parts, to come back stronger, which was one of the biggest criticisms in Returnal that drove many people away. One final game that I think is worth talking about is Tides of Annihilation, a fantasy action-adventure game that takes place in a post-apocalyptic London, heavily inspired by Arthurian legend. Aside from absolutely jaw-dropping visuals, the game promises a lot of heavy-packed action sequences that are kind of a mix between Stellar Blade, Devil May Cry, and the most recent Final Fantasy XVI. Following the reveal, PlayStation posted in their YouTube channel a second video focusing specifically on gameplay, which depicts the main character Gwendolyn exploring the vast decaying city and going against enemies with a mechanic that strikingly resembles Final Fantasy XVI's icon system. In Tides, you can quickly interchange mid-battle between different linked beings to summon elemental attacks like ice and fire, increasing your combos and damage. While it's not necessarily a new mechanic, I personally don't mind having it, and I'm quite curious to see how the studio, Eclipse Glow Games, is going to expand on it at later stages of the game. And on that note, we come to the end of today's video. It was a lot of news to take in, so I would be definitely keen to hear your thoughts on what is getting you most hyped this year. Is it the new Switch console, or maybe some of the other games that were announced? Let's keep this interactive and use the comments section below to further discuss. Until next time, stay happy and keep gaming.